Do you guys remember Cookingforgains? The guy that had everything and all the money in the world from making recipes for macronutrients online, but seemingly needed to beg for money once he was in the hospital from being a degenerate on a motorcycle and crashing. And by the way, if I'm ever a degenerate on a motorcycle and crash, I don't expect anyone to take pity on me because I do ride motorcycles frequently. But anyways, this guy, we talked about it. We made a whole video about him. He recently posted a transformation, this one in fact, and it reminded me a lot of a subject that I care quite decently about because it's something else that's not really transparently talked about before somebody hops on this Azul. I am, of course, referring to the anti-aging effects of getting off of steroids, the dramatic anti-aging effects. You can see somebody almost lose visibly a 10 to 8 year difference in age. I mean, they literally go backwards. This happened in myself too, and I have many different videos showcasing this. But in this case, I think he maybe just hopped off of steroids because everyone else was hating him. I mean, the comments on his post are still pretty brutal. Like, I can't read some of them on YouTube, unfortunately, because of the TOS here. It's pretty brutal. People are commenting, bro got some filler and Botox. Bro just got Botox. Also, bro just stopped steroids because he got in a wreck. He also got his teeth completely remodeled. Somebody commented pre-bagging and post-bagging. By the way, if you don't know, you could watch that video, but essentially this guy, he did actually make quite a bit of money. He has multiple different businesses and he bragged about it a lot. He would talk about how basically you're stupid if you don't have a lot of money, and he has all of these nice things and he's really successful, showing off his nice cars, motorcycles, houses. Turned out a lot of that wasn't actually in his name. Also turns out he didn't have a lot of money and in fact was begging for money once he did get injured to pay for his medical bills, asking for people to send him cash apps on TikTok Live and much more. But beyond that, that's kind of where that inside joke comes from. Did he just do Botox? Did he just use filler? Well, the chances are probably yes. I think he actually made a video of him using Botox, but speaking as somebody who's also gotten off of steroids and seen some of the positive effects, let me just show you my transformation. The effects are dramatic, and it absolutely is not just Botox. Did I get Botox? Absolutely. And I actually think that that's something most men should look into, especially if you train vigorously and you often scrunch your face, because it will age your face after years of multiple sessions a week of training. It is honestly like one of the best prophylactic ways you can prevent that aging and that skin folding early on. And I wish I would have done it sooner, believe it or not. And that might be something that some people think of as lunacy, but genuinely, it saves your face from aging so much. But beyond that, clearly in my face, as you can see from left to right, there's a very clear change that is not just because of Botox. And to be very clear as well, the only place that I get Botox is in my forehead. And that's the only place that I've ever really gotten Botox. It didn't change my jaw structure, the roundness of my cheeks. It didn't change where, the proportions of my chin begin or don't because of how round it was when I was on steroids. But this is also expanding beyond this too. You have people like Larry Wheels, who made this post quite some time ago. I believe it was a few years ago now, where he was using a lot of steroids and you could see his face. It looks, as close as you can get to like a Skyrim ogre or something. Not a very good one, that's for sure. I don't know. But then you see him off of steroids, or at least on a lower dose as per what he said, and he looks entirely more healthy. He looks, so much better. And I think this is something that's really important to take a look at. Larry Wheels didn't just go get Botox. Larry Wheels didn't just go, get some facial treatments. This is literally him in a complete push for absolute strength, like using drugs that are highly retentive and very known in the strength community to promote output. He's leaner in the picture on steroids, and when you look at the picture of him on less, he's not as lean, but his face looks better. But that's not all. We have Vigorous Steve. He made a video a long time ago, 4 years ago now, when he got off of steroids, talking about the effects to his facial features. And he was one of the first people to really call this out. And you can see his change is also dramatic. He looks like, a marshmallow man in one side and a non-marshmallow man on another side. And he is someone who has very openly talked about how getting off of steroids was the most potent anti-aging effect that he's ever achieved by any measure, not the other drugs, not anything else that he was specifically doing that would be considered anti-aging. It was just getting off this Azul. And when I say getting off, I don't necessarily mean actually getting off. These guys, just like me, are probably still maintaining TRT doses or slightly above. But I think it's really important to understand, because there's a lot of people who get on to the sauce and they're like, man, I'm going to get jacked and it's going to be so freaking awesome. And in a first experience kind of thing, it is, right? The first couple of weeks, months go by, it's awesome. You feel great. You start looking exceptional, but give it a year, give it maybe 2. And suddenly people start looking at you a little bit different. They start thinking, what's going on with him? Why does he look so much older? What's happened to his face? What's happened to the shape of his face? I mean, it's entirely changed. He has wrinkles now. His skin is leathery and textured. This actually happened to me. I have a cousin who lives in Korea and I hadn't seen her since she had moved there. It'd been almost a decade since I had seen her. Of course, since that time, I had gotten on steroids and did competitive bodybuilding and then stopped. But when I went to go see her, she was like, holy crap, like what happened to you? You look old, like so old. And I wasn't that old, you know what I mean? But she called it out right away and it made me extremely self-conscious. And I started to go back into my photos and look at my face and past when I had used steroids and I was competing naturally. And I was like, holy shit, I look massively, massively older. And matter of fact, as soon as I got off, it took maybe 2 to 3 months and my face completely changed almost instantly. Now, along with that, I was obviously aiming towards losing a little bit of body mass because it was a lot of lean mass and fat mass, but generally, however, my visual appearance improved massively. Now, this is something that not a lot of people talk about. What's going on here? What's the magic? Why is this Azul causing these many issues in people? And typically, they aren't spoken about because it's insidious too, right? It happens over time. Well, usually it's correlated back to oxidative stress. When you are using steroids, you do produce a lot of byproducts and oxidative stress. Essentially, the way to think about this is, on one hand, you develop a better physique. You build more muscle, bone density, strength, your ability to recruit motor units increases, you're able to refine motor skill learning. It's all good stuff. But in exchange, biology doesn't give free lunch. It's taking what it needs, and that is putting your cells into overdrive. And in essence, what you're doing is accelerating molecular aging, if you want to call it that. Androgens will inevitably increase mitochondrial activity and have cells produce more ATP, essentially leading to a higher metabolic rate, leading to more reactive oxygen species. That unstable oxygen molecule does, in fact, damage RNA, DNA, lipids, the whole nine, right? The whole structure. It is a absolutely critical feature to aging and biological aging, photoaging, all things that we would consider getting older. And then you also have to consider things like telomere shortening, especially when using high doses of growth hormone or possibly IGF-1, which most anybody, and at this current day and age in 2025, if they're going to hop on a degree of androgens, and androgens is a class of drug that activates the androgen receptor, testosterone, which is what most people have heard of, the trenbolone sandwiches.
You see this sandwich? I put my SARMs on my sandwich. I'm about to hit the gym, be bigger than you forever.
Mastron, Primobolan, Equipoise, Anavar, Winstrol, you name it. These are all the same kind of category of drugs.
What stuff? Steroids, man.
They will combine androgens with growth hormone, insulin, and IGF-1. There's a very synergistic effect that happens in terms of hypertrophy and performance when doing so. But inevitably, what you're also going to do is further increase cell turnover, which shortens essentially telomeres. So essentially, to explain this, you have like these protective caps on DNA. We'll call these the telomeres, and they get shorter over time as the cell divides more because it needs more of that DNA material, that information, to create more cells. Each cell turnover consumes telomere length, and this leads to premature cellular senescence, or at a point where a cell can't divide anymore. And once it's hit that point, it begins to become dysfunctional far quicker and sustainably, as opposed to just turning over again to rid itself of the dysfunctional capacity. These senescent cells do in turn spread their dysfunction by way of secreting inflammatory inflammatory molecules and proteins, and tumor necrosis factor, interleukin 10-6, you name it. Then furthering this problem, you have estrogenic imbalance and androgens causing differentiations within collagen proteins, the protein elastin in the human body, and much more. I mean, really everything in favor of staying young is sort of bypassed when getting on a good dose of androgens. So in the short term, you have an excess of protein synthesis, recovery, muscle growth, actual performance and accrual of performance-based skills. But in the long term, you sacrifice a lot of things. Again, biology doesn't give free lunch, but no one's explaining this to the 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old that's hopping on thinking, man, I'm just gonna get huge and make some fucking money online. It's a crazy situation that I think is pervasive. I mean, it is truly everywhere in the fitness community. And one of the biggest red flags that somebody is abusing a little bit of this azul is very clearly a sudden aging. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. I think it's a really interesting situation. Also, we developed a new product. I've been talking about it in a couple of my videos. This is the first product I've ever actually released, and it's a hair loss product. I wanted to talk about this because it's actually uniquely specific to this kind of subject matter. What I was suffering with when I was taking steroids is not just the aging, but hair loss, a massive amount of hair loss. And to save it, I had to do a lot of estranged things that, in fact, probably made things a lot worse for myself than they needed to be. And I've always kind of looked for a product to solve those issues and basically prevent androgen-related balding. I found some, and through copious amounts of research, recommendations from experts in the community, and so on, I culminated all of those things into a product that is very easy to use and simple. It's not you picking apart 8 different things from 9 different places and trying to put them all into one thing. Topically putting this all on your hair and having your hair look like garbage 90% of the time. You get way better results if you can find something that has a carrier, which is acceptable, that you can apply to your scalp. This is it. We call it Super Follicle Fuel. You can check it out. I'm not going to say much more than that. I would love to hear if you try it, if you like it. Our code is just Coach Kolton. That's really all it is. If you buy one, it does help the channel. I know there's a lot of people who suffer with balding. This is a great preventative maintenance as well as a regenerative tool for you to sort of save your scalp if you've started to lose hair or prevent hair loss from the future. We use RU58841, a very good compound, by the way, if you are taking androgens, to block locally the androgen receptor at the scalp, making it virtually impossible to lose hair. It would be caused by hair follicle miniaturization from the androgen receptor. A really good tool. It's there if you need it. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a thing or two. We'll talk to you in the next one.